tonight, hundreds of police search for a missing baby as Constance Martin and Mark Gordon were arrested on suspicion of murder. After weeks on the run, they're refusing to reveal the baby's location, and police fear the 2-month-old could be dead.
As time progresses, as the weather is closing tonight, as it was last night, in terms of the cold and the coldness and the impact that would have on a baby, clearly the risk is getting higher.
Grace Mullane's family sit down with us to talk about the domestic violence charity they've set up in her name. Cambridge University's youngest ever black professor will be here talking about making history and...
Good boy!
Sally's on shift with the Paw Patrol at London Zoo before they fly off to Thailand for a very special mission. Good evening. A huge search is underway for a missing 2-month-old baby after Constance Martin and her boyfriend Mark Gordon from Eltham were arrested last night after more than 7 weeks on the run. Their car was found burning on a motorway in Bulletin in early January, and since then they've been spotted in Liverpool, London and Essex. After a tip-off from the public, police tracked them down in Brighton, but the baby wasn't with them. Police now fear that it hasn't survived out in the elements, alone and in freezing temperatures, and have arrested the couple on suspicion of manslaughter. Here's our correspondent Simon Harris with the latest.
Shortly after daybreak, Met police officers began to search allotments on the edge of Brighton. This was a desperate hunt for a baby believed to be less than 2 months old. Officers looked in sheds and wheelie bins, under tarpaulins and cold frames and in greenhouses. Could this be where Constance Martin and Mark Gordon were living rough with the infant? There was still hope the baby was alive. But then this afternoon, the couple were arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter.
As time progresses, as the weather is closing tonight, as it was last night, in terms of the cold and the coldness and the impact that would have on a baby, clearly the risk is getting higher, and we have to be open to the fact that this may not end in the way we would like.
Constance Martin and Mark Gordon left their home at Eltham in South London in September. The alarm was raised on January the 5th when their car broke down on the M61 near Farnworth in Greater Manchester and caught fire. In the following days, they took a taxi to Liverpool and then Essex, before being seen in London, first in East Ham and then Brick Lane, where the baby's pushchair was dumped. On January the 8th, CCTV cameras revealed they were at Newhaven in Sussex. 16 miles away, and 19 days later, they were arrested in Brighton. Throughout the 7-week hunt for the couple, they managed to stay one step ahead of the police. They made every effort to cover their tracks, travelling by taxi, hiding their faces from CCTV cameras and avoiding hotels. But last night, detectives got lucky. The couple were recognised by a member of the public in a street close to the allotments. People living nearby were quickly aware of police activity in the darkness, which lasted all night.
We heard a police helicopter overhead last night for a while, quite late, and then we were aware of the breaking news. So yeah, we checked our garden and shed.
The allotments occupy a small valley. There are dozens and dozens of assorted greenhouses and huts. Local people said someone taking shelter in a shed wouldn't stand out.
I think it would be quite possible to live in the shed. Most of them have got heating of some kind and a little gas cooker of some kind, because people, when it's raining, spend time in their shed if they're out working there.
Although the couple are in custody and being questioned, it's not clear whether they're answering questions. The police still don't know if the baby they're looking for is a boy or a girl. Tonight, more than 200 officers are still searching. Simon Harris, ITV News, Brighton.
Well, Charlotte Cross is in Brighton for us now, and Charlotte, as we can see, it's dark now in Brighton, but that search will carry on through the night, won't it?
That's absolutely right, Charlene. Now, as we've heard, the couple were last seen publicly on the 8th of January, and the baby was with them at that point. A taxi driver confirmed they dropped them off in Newhaven. Now, between Newhaven and here, there is a 91 square mile area of land for police to search, and they are continuing to search that area. It is vast. The allotments alone are almost half a mile in length. As I say, it is a lot of land to search, and not easy land to get get over as well. Now, officers said they don't know whether during that time the couple may have found someone to look after the baby on their behalf, but they have said they do have to consider the worst case scenario. It is really cold here tonight. It is getting colder, and it has now started to rain as well. The risk to your newborn baby in this weather is only getting higher and higher.
OK, Charlotte, thanks very much. RMT tube drivers have announced they will strike on the 15th of March. The action is timed to coincide with Budget Day and a walkout already planned by the ASLEF union, bringing the network to a standstill. It's over an ongoing row about pensions and contracts. The deadline for the government and TfL to agree the details of the pension reform has been pushed back until the 17th. Homelessness in the capital has risen more than anywhere else in the country. 858 people were sleeping on the streets on a single night last August, up 34% from the year before. The mayor says the increase is extremely alarming. And Basildon Station has been vandalised, with windows smashed, poster boards pulled down and card readers damaged. The rail operator C2C apologised to customers this morning and said they had teams on the ground working on repairs. A suspect has been arrested and they were identified on CCTV. Grace Mullane's family have started a charity in her memory. Love Grace is an initiative set up to help women who have been affected by domestic violence. That's after Grace was murdered on a first date back in 2018. In her first interview, Grace's mother says it helps to feel that her daughter is still doing good in the world. She's been speaking to our senior correspondent, Ronke Phillips.
Shampoo, conditioner.
She's a mother who made a conscious decision to channel the grief she experienced after the murder of her daughter into helping others. And Love Grace is very much a family affair, run from a garage at her home in Wickford in Essex, with her niece, sister and other relatives all helping to keep the memory of Grace Mullane alive.
We still feel that Grace is doing good out there. She's giving that bag to that person. Although we are packing it and doing it, but it helps us through our grief.
Grace was strangled by a man she met on a dating app while she was backpacking in New Zealand in 2018. She died on the eve of her 22nd birthday. Jill firmly believes the Tinder date was used by the murderer to manipulate Grace and was in itself a form of domestic abuse. He was convicted and then sentenced during the pandemic. Jill forced to read her impact statement over Zoom.
How am I meant to get up and get on with my days, knowing it's just another day? I won't speak to her.
Giving handbags filled with essential toiletries to women fleeing violent relationships is what gave Jill back her sense of purpose, and is the way she chooses to remember Grace.
Grace loved a handbag, and we incorporate everything as if it's Grace given that bag. So the tag that we have, Grace hand drew that poppy that's on there, and the writing is a card that she gave, one of the last birthday cards she gave me. And then we sat down and we wrote a little bit about her, what happened to her, and you know, the final message is to the ladies: you are worth something.
Louise, who we can't identify, spent 7 years isolated in an abusive relationship. She suffered physical, mental, emotional and sexual violence, but eventually went to the police and was referred to a refuge where a Love Grace bag had been placed on her bed.
To receive a bag like that is amazing. It's very overwhelming as well because of where it comes from, because it's got such meaning to it, and it's helped me on my journey.
Jill's husband David died while they were still mourning Grace, and she has successfully battled cancer. But she's determined not to be defined by the tragedies she's suffered. The next chapter of her life is focused on a lasting legacy to Grace. Ronke Phillips, ITV News.
Next tonight, after a 2-year inquiry, the all-party parliamentary group on brain tumours has published a report demanding urgent action to help those affected by the disease. The government says it has allocated £40 million of funding for research since Dulwich MP Dame Tessa Jowell died of brain cancer back in 2018. But campaigners and MPs say just 15 million of that has actually been spent, as Antoine Allen reports.
Just hear those words, brain tumour, and I don't even remember the rest of the analysis.
Without warning, Sam had multiple seizures. Later in hospital, he was told he had a brain tumour. 3 years ago, his little knowledge of the condition added to his fear about how long he would have left with his 2 children.
Brain tumours are the biggest killer of adults and children under the age of 40, and I'm 37 now, and I don't want to be that statistic.
Sam, would you say if there was more awareness, it would give people like yourself with tumours more hope, which makes it easier, not for just the treatment, but also just to live a normal life?
Absolutely. I think hope is a key word. We've got to keep hoping. I think that's the main thing that drives us forward. And things like this report that's being published today, is another step in taking that step forward.
Baroness Jowell.
A brain tumour ended Tessa Jowell's life, but she devoted her last time in Parliament to raising awareness.
What gives a life meaning is not only how it is lived, but how it draws to a close.
Since her death in 2018, her daughter has carried out her legacy through the Tessa Jowell Brain Cancer Mission, which today published a groundbreaking report proposing innovative solutions for hospitals to implement.
Patients like my mum, patients all over the country are dying too soon. But what I also know, that had my mum been diagnosed today, only 5 years on from when she was diagnosed, she could possibly be able to receive precision medicine in one of our Tessa Jowell Centres of Excellence in Cambridge. She could know that in every hospital in the country she would receive excellent neurosurgery.
What would your mum think of this report and the amazing work that you're doing?
She'd be proud of us, but she would also be saying, what's next? We need to do more.
In a second report, an all-party parliamentary group on brain tumours has called for, amongst other things, changes to how research into the disease is funded. Hugh, today is an important day for reports. If the government don't listen to those recommendations, what could happen to a whole generation of those people that have brain tumours?
Very few certainties in the brain tumour world. One thing we know, though, for certain, is if we don't invest in discovery science, we will not get closer to a cure. That discovery science underpins all clinical innovation, the route to trials.
The Department of Health and Social Care says the £40 million we've allocated so far has supported 13 research programmes. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
Still to come, from Clapham to Cambridge. I'll be chatting to the university's youngest ever black professor. And Sally meets the clever canine sniffing out something special. But first, if Fulham can beat Leeds in the 5th round of the FA Cup tonight, it will be the first time they've reached the quarter-finals for 13 years. Sam Holder is outside Craven Cottage for us now. Sam, Fulham really are exceeding expectations this season, aren't they?
Well, that's right, Charlene. Fulham have had an incredible season so far, 6th in the league, and they're a newly promoted side. It feels as if all the negative attention on the other team in SW6, Chelsea, has allowed Fulham to kind of fly under the radar a little bit. Tonight is a massive opportunity, the chance to make it through to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup for the first time in 13 years. Now, you might expect that Craven Cottage would be the hottest ticket in town, but actually around 6,000 tickets have remained unsold because of the price. They're being sold at £40, about double what some other Premier League teams are charging for FA Cup matches. The Fulham Supporters Trust has come out to criticise the club, saying it could affect the atmosphere tonight. Well, I'm joined by Sarah Keeg, who is the co-founder of Fulham Lilies. What do you make of the ticketing situation?
It is really disappointing. We've got a real chance this season to go all the way in the FA Cup. A number of Premier League teams have already been knocked out. We're playing really well in the league, and I just think this could be our year. But as we saw when we played in Europe a few seasons ago, there's nothing better than a cup game midweek at the Cottage, and it is really disappointing that we're not going to get that atmosphere tonight. We know that Leeds will sell out and they will bring the atmosphere, and actually, you know, this pricing could work to our disadvantage this evening.
Having a great season in the league, do you think this should be a focus, the FA Cup? How much of an opportunity is tonight?
I think we're safe now. It's the end of February. We're pretty much there with 39 points, so, you know, the magic 40. So I think we are definitely safe. So, yeah, you know, let's enjoy ourselves. Let's take that opportunity to go on a cup run. As I said, a lot of big teams have already out of the cup, so this definitely could be our year.
Nobody expected Fulham to have the season they have. Very quickly, what's behind it?
I think it is definitely down to Marco Silva, and also we bought well in the summer. The players that we brought in, Pereira, Polinia, they just fitted seamlessly into the team, and also we've seen an improvement in the players as well, such as Mitro, Tim Ream and Kenny Tete.
Well, Sarah, thank you very much. Fulham are up against Leeds tonight. They're in bad form, but they do have a new manager, one that will be recognisable to many Watford fans. Javi Gracia led Watford to the FA Cup final in 2019, so he has plenty of experience in this competition. Set to be an exciting, if slightly empty, match tonight.
Thanks very much, Sam. Now, our guest tonight will make history next week, becoming Cambridge University's youngest ever black professor, aged 37. Teaching at the world-renowned institution was a goal that Jason Arday set himself as a kid growing up in Clapham many years ago. But what makes his appointment even more impressive is that he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at 3, didn't learn to speak until he was 11, and couldn't read or write until he was 18. But Jason, you were determined to make your mark, weren't you?
I was, Charlene, but I mean, it's important to preface that by saying that that only really happened because I was fortunate enough to have some amazing people in my life that, you know, played a huge impact at that particular stage, you know, namely Debbie Ann, Sandro. These are people that had huge impacts on me, my mother, you know, and they were really integral, particularly at 18. And that was a really important phase in terms of transitioning to where we ended up.
So what was behind your need and want to eventually be able to teach at an institution like Oxbridge?
In some ways, it represents a lot of things that are really great and also really problematic. But I guess the thing that was really a gravitational pull was this idea of I could go to a place like that potentially and make a difference and build on some of the fantastic work that many academics, particularly academics of colour, have done in the wider sector to broaden and diversify the space. So I thought, you know, the platform and the opportunity that Oxford or Cambridge would present there was an allure to that in terms of what I could do in terms of bringing people along with me, and it's something I've tried to do over the last 10 years that I've worked in higher education.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were working full-time whilst also gaining your master's and your PhD. That takes an immense amount of drive, and, you know, you've talked about the fact that you wanted to have an impact in some way. That's been a huge driver for you. How on earth were you able to balance all of that and end up becoming a professor at Cambridge?
To be quite honest, I was very, and again, I can't emphasise enough, I was very, very fortunate to have some amazing people who supported me. You know, a lot of people made a lot of time for me, you know, and those people I mentioned, you know, Debbie Ann, Sandro, my mother and others, you know, that they were in that particularly early period when I was 18 through to kind of 25, they made a lot of sacrifices and supported me as much as they could. So I feel very fortunate. If I've ended up in this position, it's because of a lot of the work and investment that those amazing people and others have done.
But also the work that you've done. I mean, it's not easy. I think Cambridge University currently only has 5 other black professors in its entire university, you know, and it's not often that you get someone who is as skilled and as intelligent to be able to join the ranks of that and feel empowered by that. Do you feel like you'll have the impact you want to have whilst you're there?
I hope so. In some ways, this is not really. It will only feel like a win when there is greater representation and there are more amazing and gifted people than I am. And I think when we have those people in the right spaces, you know, particularly people from disadvantaged backgrounds and particularly black and ethnic minority people, and we have a sector that's been, you know, particularly cruel to black female academics. I think once we're able to broaden that space and to have those individuals reach their full potential without any form of discrimination, then I think we will have achieved something. So
Yeah.
for me, you know, if there is any victory, it's our victory, it's not mine. But I do think we've got a lot of work to do to ensure that we broaden that space.
And it'd be great for you to bring some South London flair to Cambridge as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. Thank you. Right, Sally, you've joined us in the studio and you've been looking at something very unusual at London.
Well, I have been looking at something very unusual. The pangolin. Now, I've got some pictures of them coming up. Watch out for the baby. Incredible tongue. And I saw these beautiful dogs that have been trained by the Met Police. They're off to Thailand because they're going to help sniff out pangolins that have been illegally traded in Thailand. And it's all been organised by the Zoological Society for London. So why not go to the zoo and meet them? Let's take a look.
Trying to take a dog to a zoo is a bit like trying to take a toddler. Chaotic. And as for trying to get a photo, nightmare. But Bess and Buster are here because they've just been trained to sniff out illegally trafficked pangolins for the Zoological Society of London. This, by the way, is an adult pangolin. And this is a baby. Wait for it. What a tongue. They are the only mammals with scales. But it wasn't their coats that were the issue at London Zoo today.
Grant, I didn't get the memo about black clothing. I'm covered in hair. You avoided it.
I've avoided it today, yeah.
The dogs have been trained by the Met Police to sniff out pangolins in Thailand, which are traded for medicines and meat.
How endangered are the pangolins?
Critically endangered. We know that they're trafficked in huge numbers. We believe one is poached every 5 minutes.
The dogs follow the pangolin scent, and you can see that when they've found what they're looking for, they stop and await their reward. A good old ball. In Thailand, the dogs will be used on the transport network and beyond to try and rescue these unique mammals.
The most tragic thing about it is the scales here, which is what they are in high demand for, are essentially keratin. So they're the same as hair, rhino horn, nails. We all grow it, and there's nothing special about it. There's no evidence to show that there's any medicinal properties at all.
No need to trade it.
No need to trade it.
These beautiful dogs are only about 2 years old. They've been training for just 6 to 8 weeks. And in April, that's it. They're off to Thailand. They'll equilibrate for a couple of weeks, do whatever you do, get used to the weather. And then they are hot to trot. It is game on, isn't it? Yeah!
The soft toys are currently the only pangolins London Zoo has, so we opted to show the dogs something else beginning with P. But it was a poor second, it would seem, as the dogs know their task and already only have eyes for these little creatures they'll set out to save.
But it was cold down at the zoo today, wasn't it?
Oh, it's so cold. When we get this cloud and no sun gets through, it's just the temperatures drop down, and it's cold at night as well. And my smart meter is really stressing me out because it just keeps, we're turning everything off and it just keeps going up. And it might get even colder as we go through into the start of next week. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news. Here we go.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Well, I hope you had a lovely last day of February. Judging by the look on this bird's face, it would suggest it probably didn't. But anyway, first day of spring tomorrow, and our weather looks pretty settled once again. For the rest of the week, there's a fair bit of cloud around. At times, we'll get some breaks for a little bit of sunshine, and it's feeling quite nice in the sunshine. But of course, under the cloud, in any breeze, it's actually still feeling fairly cold and chilly at night time, with still the risk of some frost. So if we take a look at the pressure chart towards the end of the weekend and next week, what we're going to see is that the high pressure starts to move off to the northwest, and that will give us more of a northerly flow, and we might see those temperatures start to drop a little bit further still. Not great for the heating bills. Right, as for tonight, the chance of the odd shower around here or there, but many areas again staying dry. That cloud coming and going. Where we get some breaks, there's a higher chance of getting a bit of patchy frost, but wherever we are, as we start the day tomorrow, it is going to be cold. Those temperatures fairly close to around freezing. So the first day of spring gives us Not a bad day. We've got a mixture really of the odd shower, most places dry, a fair bit of cloud around. Hopefully once again we will see a few breaks to allow a little bit of brightness. Our temperatures similar to today, highs of 6 to 10 degrees, but there's a little bit of a breeze. And of course with that and under the cloud, again, feeling a bit on the cool side. The evening, no real change. You could catch an isolated shower here or there, but most places dry with patchy cloud once again. So the outlook, seeing a bit more cloud probably through to Friday and Saturday. Our temperatures round about average, but chilly under that cloud and cool at night time. That's it for now.
ITV London Weekday Weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Finally, one of the founders of the Terence Higgins Trust has been awarded an OBE.
Mr. Martin Butler, for services to charity and to public health.
Martin Butler set up the charity from his flat in Limehouse 40 years ago after his friend Terry Higgins became the first person to die from AIDS-related illness in the UK. He said he wanted to dedicate this honour to all of the millions lost to HIV. Huge congrats, Martin. Right, that's it from us. We're back with the latest after ITV News at 10, which is on at 10:20 tonight because of the FA Cup. Mary's up next with the ITV Evening News, but for me and the rest of the London team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.